This video is sponsored by My Lovely Empress, a narrative-driven kingdom management game inspired by a mix of East and Southeast Asian mythology. Head on over to Steam now to wishlist My Lovely Empress and play the demo today.
American Sign Language for gang. Oh,
and that's why I think Hitler is right. Hello, welcome to the Windbreaker podcast, everyone. I'm Yahtzee Croshaw. I'm joined by Marty Slaver and Frost.
I don't think Hitler was right. I think he was wrong. And a bad artist also. No, he's no chicory. Let me tell you that.
I think it's the food. He was a vegan, wasn't he? Says a lot about German cuisine.
He was vegetarian. I don't think he was vegan.
I think they had vegans back then.
Yeah, I remember there was remember there used to be a distinction.
What's the
difference? Anyway, you don't eat. If you're a vegan, you also don't eat dairy products.
Nothing from an animal, not even meat.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
Unless you ask nicely. You go to the cow and say, "Hi, Mrs. Cow. My hands are nice and warm, and I notice you've got this very bloated milk sack there. May I please partake?" And if Mrs. Cow says yes, it's fine for vegans to have.
Speaking of series with an identity problem.
Yes, well, that gets us to the topic this week, which I was eventually going to start steering towards. Well, this is something that came up last week, isn't it? When we were talking about the new showcase of trailers that came out in Summer Games Fest and the Xbox showcase and the Ubisoft showcase, where what identity do these long-established AAA franchises even have anymore? And I made this point when we were talking about Doom: The Dark Ages. Because if you asked, like, the average person what Doom was, like, 10 years ago, they'd say, tech base, you're a Marine, you fight monsters, BFG 9000, it's a whole thing.
Oh, you're a Marine. I heard Euro Marine.
I heard you're in Marine. Just a little piss boy out there.
Three different identities, yeah. Angry little piss boy.
They could be a urine Marine as well. I mean, we never see them go to the bathroom. They probably have a little, tube set up down there. Yeah.
I'd do it.
They probably drink their own piss to keep them going, because that's the kind of badass they are. So when you say Dune, it just sounds like Doom to me.
I think I may have said it wrong the first time.
You just say Dune. That's what I say.
There you go.
Dune.
You know So,
Timothy Chalamet's Doom.
You know what? I'm tuned to that popcorn bucket. Hey, yo.
Because
speaking of,
Doom Eternal's just sort of started drifting like the franchise into a dark fantasy instead of like sci-fi with demons. And my question at that point was, what does it even mean to say that you're making a Doom game anymore if it could be literally anything? What is the series' identity at this point?
It's funny because I agree with this topic, and I think it's something that's interesting if you look back all the way from the start of video game history. I don't see it with Doom. Doom to me always kind of feels the same. It's just you're ripping and tearing, and just if you're ripping on tearing on a space base on Mars or in Hell or in a are in a messed up version of the planet Earth, or now you're ripping and tearing through the Dark Ages. Like it all, I guess. Like, do we think that an identity is formed from aesthetics, from story, from mechanics?
Well,
Does
perhaps
it need
this
to be a
is
combination
jumping.
of all of them?
Perhaps this is jumping to the end for me, but an identity for me comes from having a creator, an individual author guiding the franchise, so that you can hear, oh, Hideo Kojima's making a thing. I've liked his previous things, therefore I am confident that there will be a steady hand on the tiller. Obviously, you don't have that in committee-designed AAA bland swill. So all we have is franchise names. Say, hey, this is the new Doom, this is the new Assassin's Creed, this is the new Dragon
Doom
Age.
is bland swill? Doom's taking strays from you?
All right, perhaps Doom was a bad example to
Okay.
start with. I was
You
using
could
it
say
as a
something like
point that
Assassin's Creed, or
I mean, what we're seeing for the Doom Dark Ages feels more like a Quake game to me. It feels like it's something to do with like the original Quake or Painkiller. It looks a lot like Painkiller. I thought.
Sure.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
mean,
it has more of that sort of gothic fantasy
Yeah.
horror that both of those games had.
Yeah. But Assassin's Creed is absolutely like the poster child for this. What does it even mean that they're making a new Assassin's Creed game? We don't know who's making it. We don't even know what particular team in Ubisoft is making it.
Several.
There's probably like 9 of them in
Many.
different cities.
A whole lot.
Christ alive.
When was the last time Assassin's Creed was about something in terms of overarching themes?
Oh boy.
Oh,
This
you
is
guys, well, they
interesting.
had to get an apple or an orb of some sorts in one of the games.
Yeah,
Yep,
and
he
you were
bonded the
Desmond
orb.
Miles. Desmond Miles was trying to save the world from a solar flare at one point, and then he
Okay.
died, and then the series has been about nothing ever
That
since.
was so long ago, and you
I
love
know.
Black Flag. You love Black
Wait,
Flag.
he had to save it from a solar flare? I don't even remember that being part of the
You
story.
see,
No,
even you have forgotten that this was like the driving force behind the overarching plot in like the first 6 games.
Well, don't say
Yeah.
even me. I forget everything. It's not surprising to me whatsoever that I forget that. So you're saying story is an important, like is it the most important thing to an identity? Because when I if we go back to like the 8, 16, 64-bit eras, it feels like the move from, or even like in the NES, we had sequels that very quickly veered off from the identity of their originals. You had the US version of Mario 2, which felt very different than Mario 1. You had Zelda 2, Castlevania 2. Those immediately felt like they were very different than what came before them. And so, like, from the beginning, I feel like franchises were kind of grasping at straws a bit to figure out their identity or to even maintain their identity. So this doesn't necessarily, to me, feel like something new.
Well, that's those are some very early examples you're giving there, and I think that might have been an early stumbling block in the games industry.
Sure.
And in later years, it was less the case. Like
Who's to
I
say
always
they
go,
even had one though.
I mean, do
Yeah,
you have an
well,
identity
quite.
after one thing? Is that an identity?
Exactly.
Don't you need like
Yeah.
a
quite.
couple under your belt to be a franchise?
Like when we think Mario or even like say Zelda, do you think the first ones?
No, I mean, I think Mario really came into its own around Mario 3, I'd say.
Yeah, well, it was funny because a lot of those franchises, when they moved to the Super Nintendo, it very much felt like let's just iterate on what worked originally. And so, Super
Yeah.
Metroid, Super Mario World, Castlevania, Final Fantasy VI, those all felt like building upon the original foundations. But then in the move to 3D, some of those franchises kind of were able to take those ideas and those mechanics and those verbs and transition them to 3D in ways that make sense, like Mario and Zelda and Metal Gear and Final Fantasy. Whereas the move to 3D like was a huge hurdle for Sonic, for Mega Man, for Castlevania. Like that was a point where it's like, what is this thing? I'm not sure you guys actually know what this thing is, and maybe that's the point. Maybe a thing can be the vessel. Is the thing the liquid, or is the thing the vessel? I guess is your identity.
For me, identity is about informing the buying public. It's like, say, if you say to the buying public, "Hey, we're making a new Doom game," what is that statement telling them? It's telling them they can expect a high octane shooter, sure.
Yeah,
Means
But
he's
if
going to
you
be
just-
there. The guy right there. Doom guy's going to be there.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't
Okay.
feel like they've veered away yet in the same way, like a Bond, how Bond has evolved throughout actors and throughout sort of decades and generations. Like it's ostensibly the same thing, but like the Craig movies are so different than the Roger Moore movies or the Timothy Dalton movies.
But at the same time, you say to the buying public, we're making an open world game set in the Star Wars universe.
Sure.
And it's going to have a trillion different mechanics and absolutely no focus. There'll be stealth, there'll be action, there'll be blah-de-blah-de-blah. So for me, this feels like you're not really telling the buying public anything. It's just saying, hey, here's a thing with a thing you like attached to it. You don't know who's making it. You don't know what their previous strengths have been. You don't know what the sort of focus the gameplay is on, so you can be informed and buy it if you're really into a certain kind of game. All we know is that it's Star Wars, and that's all these big franchises seem to be relying on at this point. Just slapping the names on things. That's what I'm complaining about.
Yeah, no. It's interesting there because games are part art and part tubes. I don't know what's in these PCs. And anyone can do the technical, mechanical part of it all, but it's I would say the artistic part is where the identity is either there or not, to the point where, like Call of Duty, the identity for a lot of people, including myself, was the earlier Modern Warfare trilogy and then the Black Ops one. But that's around the time where the old boys were gone. They took the juice with them, so to speak, over to Titanfall and Apex Legends. And that's sort of like they had a more rounded identity, where now you said, can you make a game without an identity? Yeah, I think so. That's kind of where the CODs have been, where they're just like, is that almost a negative? If you're so identifiable that you don't need a lead creative anymore, that you can just go in for it. Is Doom Guy now there? Where just like, he rips, he tears, he's got a green suit. Like is that where Doom's approaching now?
Well,
is there any Bible, so to speak, for him?
It feels like franchising in like a fast food sense, like saying, "Hey, here's a piece of paper with the instructions on how to make the hamburger. Right. Just give it to literally anyone."
It's almost like a mythos, though, right? Because if you say like, you can have some very verbose text of like, here's exactly how I want everything, like J.R.R. Tolkien, or you can just have like Robin Hood. How do we portray him? We don't know too much about him. Almost like Yasuke in Assassin's Creed, right? He's got so many gaps that we can make whatever we want of him. Is Doom Guy that? Has he ever actually had like a really solid identity?
You probably have to. Well, he was in the Doom comic book. He had a very clear identity in that. You couldn't shut him up in the Doom comic book.
Is that real? Does it count?
The Doom comic book is actually where the phrase "rip and tear" comes from.
Hey. That's a little fun fact, little Doom fun fact.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I feel like it's like the root of some of this lack of a franchise identity comes from the fact that individual games have a lack of identity, right? Because now,
because we de-emphasize the notion of a single auteur director. I think all of Hideo Kojima's games carry his identity. You look at a Death Stranding game, you think there's my boy Hideo doing his thing, what he does.
Whether you like it or not, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess there's creator shift, which happens in I think the games industry more than even any in the film industry, because I feel like in the film industry at least, like, I mean, aside from George Lucas handing off or selling Star Wars to Disney, like it's sort of a small group of people have the reins on it. Whether that's a good thing or not, there is like ultimately, you look at the MCU, a Kevin Feige, someone looking over everything, whereas you don't have that in games anymore. Or if games have lasted since the 90s, or franchises have lasted since the 90s, the franchises have moved hands and owners so much that none of the people who were responsible for the original Dooms have anything to do with id now, like with these current games. So you have creator shift. It feels like the deeper you get into the franchise, the more you need to up the stakes in a way that I think ultimately loses something that was in the simplicity of the original.
And that's how we end up on the path where everything gravitates to a state of maximum broad appeal. Yeah. Everything gravitates to arsing about in a bush, the Jiminy Cockroach open world model. Mm-hmm. There was a time when I've said this before, but there was a time when Tomb Raider was a platformer, Far Cry was a shooter, and God of War was a hack and slash, and now all of those games are just arsing about in a bush.
But do you want them to stay the status quo? Like, do you want don't we also bemoan stagnation at that
See,
point?
I'm with Marty there that I do like a little experimentation. I grew up with the 4 Crow movies, vastly different from each other, but still keeping
There's
very similar
4
themes.
Crow movies?
See what I tell you? Real fan here.
Yeah, one
Faker
of them
gets
had
outed.
one of them was Edward Furlong was played at the Crow.
Mm-hmm. And you've waylaid me on my own sidetracking there.
I'm
What
sorry.
was I?
I'm sorry.
Four Crow.
You grew
Walk
up
me
with 4
back.
Crow.
4 Crow movies.
Well, you were saying we want games to experiment, but I'm
That's
saying that
the
I
one.
want.
Thank you. Oh, yeah, experimentation. But is it experimentation to now, as Yahtzee says, go open world and fuck around in a bush? You know, that's
Well,
the
not
feeling I
really.
got over Doom, where I was just like, oh no, you kind of doing what the other people are doing now. You're doing a little what COD had going on there, because like
Yeah,
I don't want to be the guy that pisses on your Cheerios and the trailer. But going back and watching it, I'm like, huge open arena, cool, but there's only like 8 things you're fighting in the center. It's essentially like taking the corridors and just going, wow, but the gameplay hasn't changed, you know?
Yeah,
And now the
yeah, but like,
claustrophobia, the tight combat spaces, the identity there is sort of, dissipating a little.
well, Doom Eternal was doing that a lot. It was doing the Ghost Train ride arena to arena thing, and that seems like where the Dark Ages are going as well.
Are the walls
For me,
part of the
so
identity?
I don't want a game to like broaden out and experiment. I want games to focus on stuff. I want games to figure out what they're good at, and not
I
try to
think we
please
need
every imaginable
experimentation to
audience.
do that, right? Well, I think these are different. I think experimenting is different than like trend chasing. Like trend chasing
Sure.
gets us into that homogenized slop where every game kind of feels similar because it's like, oh well, this game was popular, so we got to do this kind of open world, and oh well, people want their RPG mechanics, and oh, we need to retain the audience so that they don't sell the game, so have them
I
do
did.
this.
I looked at the Summer Game Fest trailers this morning for the first time because I'm writing up like one of my what used to be like the post E3 zero punctuations, but will now be the post Summer Game Fest fully ramblomatic. And the first words on the Star Wars Outlaws gameplay trailer is "Welcome to the first open world Star Wars game." Now, I kind of been the first person whose mind immediately started racing when they heard that. Surely not, I thought. Surely not. Let me go over this in my head. Open world, open world, open world. I mean, Ubisoft make a
Do
habit
they
of
not
this.
count Jedi Survivor as open world? Like the worlds feel pretty big and sprawly.
Souls-like, sprawly, arguable. My first thought was the MMOs. Star Wars: The Old Republic.
Sure. Yeah.
But Ubisoft have a habit of this. They like try to invent ways in which games are the first such and such when they are absolutely nothing of the sort. Like when Assassin's Creed Odyssey was the first Assassin's Creed where you could choose between a male or female protagonist. It's like, no,
Yeah.
no, it isn't. Syndicate let you do that.
Oh yeah, Wicked 94. The Lego Star Wars was absolutely open world, the most recent one from a few years ago. Like that was
there you
100%
go.
open world. Yeah, like you had a whole planet,
Jeez.
like entire planets to explore. Yeah,
Sure. I don't know.
that's fine. We can lie. Well, we can lie just a little bit in our marketing. Sprinkle a little bit of lying in there.
See,
Yeah.
I'm very much again caught between the two of you here.
Oh.
Clowns on the left of me, jokers on the right. Here I am, the overlap. Is that I like the experimentation, but I'm also on Yahtzee's side where like if it just feels off, yeah, why not just go? Yeah, you kind of. I'm not sure where you're going with this. It almost goes into these different phases of like I like both God of Wars, the old hack and slash, and the newer like hairy dad version of it. That's more cinematic and whatnot. I'm okay with both. Two different kinds of cake. I don't like just one cake.
Okay.
I
I
think
mean,
we're still fine with the old God of War because they didn't run it into the ground. Whereas if they would have stuck with that formula and we would have gotten 2 PS4 games that felt like that and a PS5 game, I feel like we would have gotten less fine with it.
I don't know, brother. Have you seen Wukong? That's just God of War China.
I'm already sick of talking
think-
about Wukong, and Wukong's not even out yet.
I don't think I would argue that the original God of War format wasn't run into the ground. I mean, they made like a whole bunch of those beyond God of War 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, sure. I guess
Chains-
Ascension and then the handheld ones. Yeah.
Yeah, Chains of Olympus and all of them. And like
Those
the whole God of
descriptions.
War format was like copied by a million other games at the time as well, like
Yeah.
Dante's Inferno and the Castlevania Lords of Shadows.
Did people play those aside from critics? Those throw me off. Like I know there's excess Assassin's Creed games too, but do people recognize those as like actual games?
People see them as like,
I guess I guess
your
not.
video game
People
video games.
people don't really talk about God of War Ascension anymore.
You
Well,
think?
Edward did.
Yeah, there you go. God of War 2018 and the Ragnarok. Do you think those still feel like they have the original franchise identity to you, Yahtzee, or do those feel like do you think there are
Absolutely not.
changes? Okay.
I mean, for all their individual merits, it felt like they slapped Kratos onto a completely different game altogether that was more in line with the Uncharted brand linear single player game that was of the of the time.
See, that's interesting. Because I feel like they could have gotten away with having Kratos be there, but also I like that it was Kratos because you get to take in that old stuff with you. I don't know.
Yeah.
So,
I feel like it was a more interesting reflection on the original games than doing a God of War 4 that was just a really pretty version of him doing the same shit he was doing then. Even if it was in Norse mythology, if he was just the same Kratos he was in that original trilogy.
I don't know. Had sort of resented the slight undertone of those games that was like, boy, those old games were immature, weren't they? Now we're grown-ups. Now we're all slightly ashamed of the fun we used to have.
I think that's normal for artists.
Looks back hauntingly at all the time.
I mean, for me, if you want to sort of like be introspective and deconstruct everything that you did up to now, the best example for that for me would be Saints Row 4. I was like, hey, let's just push things up to 11 and take the piss out of ourselves, and and to like just tie a nice little bow around all the crazy places our series has gone up to now.
Were those the same creators?
Yeah, it was all.
I actually don't know much about the Saints Row lineage. Like, I don't know how if that team stuck together, if it was a similar team, if like it was all Volition.
Yeah, it was all Volition, all the same dev. I don't know about individual members. That's kind of the problem, I suppose.
Sure. Yeah.
So I suppose I'm there with Yachts as far as identity goes. I'll take experimentation, but when it comes to the point of like, oh, we're kind of ashamed of what we used to do, you should relish in your cringe. Like, absolutely take the piss out of it. I think it's whenever they try to undo each other where it's just, well, you're going to end up with different loyalist camps, right? Old God of War, new God of War.
I remember saying a while back, I was talking about. I remember how, like, if you keep reinventing yourself, it feels like, as I said, a web comic that's been running since the late 90s. Ooh. And how, if after a while, like questionable content, if you're gonna like drift away from slice of life teenagers drinking coffee to robots and aliens, maybe you should just do something new.
Okay, here's a good one then. Supergiant. Like, what's their identity?
Well, they make every game they make an awful lot of games with very sexy sounding voice actors.
Sure.
Yeah.
Every time I play a Supergiant game, I think, boy, I'd like to be listening to this voice actor the next time I make love to something.
Like, I think that's a good example for us, but I feel like Supergiant, you can pretty clearly
you can absolutely feel a thumbprint on every Supergiant game.
Yeah, quantify it. Give me the list. Yeah. I'm not saying they don't. I'm saying, where is it?
Okay, they tend towards an isometric viewpoint. They have very nice sort of what feels like hand-drawn art. They've always got the sort of storytelling tone that uses very dialogue-focused, very character-focused narrative, very moment-to-moment storytelling. I mean, if you can't sense that there's a recurring creator thumbprint between Supergiant games, I don't know what to tell you, because there is.
Is it then Logan Cunningham and like what's the name, Gen Z, that does the art? Is it the heart that we're feeling? To me, it goes back to the
Eric, are we boring you?
Where'd he go?
Are we boring you, Eric? Is that why you do these things?
Is that Pikachu? Marty Chu? What do you know? Now, if you're gonna go back to, I want to feel like someone wanted to create something. To me, the only time I feel like the identity is completely lacking is when it feels like, okay, yeah, we had to keep the ball rolling. Usually it's, I still like Black Flags, even though Patrice Desolé wasn't working on them anymore. But at a certain point, it feels like, okay, this is just our annual showing. Aside from like, hey, I found a director that really wanted to make this time around.
I like Black Flag entirely divorced from the fact that it's an Assassin's Creed game. I keep saying I like the Black Flag part. I don't like the Assassin's Creed part so much.
Mm. Mm.
Individually, I like it.
Sure.
It wouldn't have been sold to me if you just said it's a new Assassin's Creed game. At that time, I was already sort of mired in Assassin's Creed fatigue at that time.
Would
Even at that early stage.
Or I guess 5 games in the span of 6 or 7 years. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Was it? Would Skull and Bones have done better if Edward was there?
Maybe. If it would just been Assassin's Creed Black Flag with the Assassin's Creed stuff taken off it, it would have been just as good a game. I'd say.
Insane to me what a slam dunk Skullbones could have just been if they would have just gone, we'll just do this again, do this pirate thing again. Just do this pirate thing again, don't call it Assassin's Creed. Like it is baffling to me how they dropped the ball on that.
You could have just said Black Flag's online. Boom.
Yeah. I don't know. It's.
I don't know if it would have been as easy as that. We know how many headaches arise in transitioning something from a single player offline to a multiplayer online game.
I guess I meant less the online and more of just make another pirate game. Just make another pirate game and divorce it from Assassin's Creed. Like the online thing again is the sticky wicket anyone gets by trying to follow trends, especially when you are steering a ship, no pun intended, that takes 5 to 6 years in order to get to port, and by the time the 5 or 6 years are up, people are like, "Oh, we don't actually want that thing from half a decade ago. We're on to the next thing."
Fail faster.
See, that's
as
the
secret.
Just fail faster so you can get on to the next one.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm trying to think of like modern. I feel like Nintendo has done a pretty good job of maintaining identities in their franchises, which again might be a part of the fact that they have so many original creatives who are still there.
Yeah,
some people who have been working on these franchises for decades.
As always, Nintendo are sort of the outliers, getting by in an alternative timeline, their own little world, where creative thumbprint is still a thing, and franchises still somehow retain identities.
They'd probably shoot you if you deviate too much from the originals.
But I mean, Zelda, there's a handful of people who are like, not even a handful. I think there's a lot of people who are like, don't like the direction Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom went in, and want to go back to the traditional dungeons and items and just a snazzy looking ocarina time.
What about those spin-offs? Like there's that Zelda Muso, where you're just out here beating ass. It's just very different from the other games.
I guess do you consider a spin-off a loss of identity? Yahtzee?
I don't know. Like the Mario typing game was that in the front too.
Yeah. Or is a spin-off like safe from this?
No, it's a spin-off is a spin-off, Yeah. I mean, what I'm talking about is tentpole franchises releasing tentpole installments rather than, Paper Mario.
Yeah.
And tentpole, there you go. That's a good phrase.
Because of course, when we talk about tentpole Mario, we're talking about, Super Mario 3, Super Mario Land, Super Mario Galaxy, Super Mario Odyssey, that whole through line.
Yeah.
Everything besides that is spin-offs.
He quits his job and gets a new job. That's spin-off.
Yeah. The Paper Marios, the RPGs, like Mario Teaches Typing, the sports games, that's all, the nice little branches that come off the tentpole tree that the tentpole pays for. The little creative experiments that the tentpole pays for, which is, after all, what the purpose of a tentpole is supposed to be.
Which is funny because every once in a while, then those little experiments like Smash or Kart end up selling more than the tentpoles themselves and become the
that's why we need the tentpole system, because that's how we create the new things. The new things come off. We experiment and find interesting new places to go, and if they don't work, fine. We've still got the tentpole to pay for everything, and if they do work, double hoorays.
I'm trying to think of examples where really shifting an identity has worked well. And when in watching these trailers, Yahtzee, have you watched the Lego Horizon trailer yet?
I haven't seen it. I haven't sat down and watched it. I saw what we saw of it when Eric was sticking it on the thing last week. Sure. Yeah, there it is again. And that kind of tells me everything I need to know, frankly.
Like that feels to me like an identity change that I can actually get behind, because I don't like the identity of the core games. Like I am not a fan of the Horizon games. And so like taking some of the parts that are interesting, like robot dinosaurs, and putting them in something else that I might find more interesting, like a kind of tongue-in-cheeky
Well,
Lego take on it.
Well, it doesn't have the identity of a Horizon game. It does very much have the identity of a Lego game, as I understand them. This is like the vibe that every Lego game has, really.
Sure. Yeah. I guess Lego's identity is actually pretty strong because their thing, no matter what vessel you pour it into, has this feeling. Even the Lego movie has a similar vibe as Lego Star Wars or anything like that.
Absolutely modular.
Yeah.
Just takes the piss. They must have very good creative controllers keeping an eye on that franchise.
Shout out to the Dutch or the Danish. I don't know what Lego, which one Lego is.
It would be very easy to just license Lego out to whoever paid them the money and just let them make whatever garbage they wanted. But no, it seems like they actually keep a firm hand on the reins there.
Yeah.
The brass on that. At what point, though, during an identity shift, does it sort of become the new identity? Like the new Assassin's Creed game coming through, I expect it to be more like Odyssey, more like Origins than, say, Black Flag.
Well, I'll tell you,
Assassin's Creed 1, 2, 3.
I'll tell you what sprung to mind when I think of a series that does maintain an identity and sort of shifts that identity over time. Grand Theft Auto.
Yakuza.
Yeah. Grand Theft Auto is a good one.
Grand Theft Auto started as 2D games, did all right. Fairly noteworthy as like one of the earliest like open world fuck about games. GTA 3, when they brought it into 3D, suddenly it's like the biggest franchise in the world. Yeah. And they started out like still keeping the sort of the goofy tone, but then that tone sort of shifted in GTA 4 to make something more brown and gritty and cynical of the time, and that became the GTA identity. Mm-hmm. And then they sort of brightened up a bit for GTA 5 to make a sort of game that has the central themes of sort of nihilism and almost cheerful nihilism, I'd say. And I'd say GTA 5 has maintained that identity.
Yeah, a similar... I feel like Persona took a similar route of going from those first 3 PS2 games and then or PS1 games and then evolving into Persona 3, and then once Persona 3 landed, that sort of identity has been what the franchise is going forward, obviously notwithstanding spin-offs and whatnot. But I guess even Rockstar knows you can dabble in other things. You can sort of goof with spin-offs with Red Dead's Undead Nightmare, which we talked about a few weeks ago, that didn't feel, I don't think anyone was up in arms over that, because it was obviously like the franchise isn't just this now, this is a offshoot, like this is a little goof offshoot, which I would actually prefer to have little goof offshoots. I wish maybe that was a place that more franchise holders could be a little more playful with their series instead of keeping everything so sort of
well, Red Dead's got a sort of ongoing tone of its own, I'd say.
Yeah.
It's like, cynicism in the face of a changing world.
Oh. Sure. Yeah, being the last of a dying breed.
Yeah. The last of the old west. That was always the theme.
Yeah. How about what were you gonna say, Frost?
I was thinking, how about them where it is a clash of identity, but it's the favored one, like Fallout 3 and New Vegas, 2 different creatives here, and yeah, it's almost like twin monarchs, right? Who's destined for the crown?
Yeah.
Well, Bethesda definitely has a favorite, but
yeah. Yeah, it's interesting how sometimes like folks from outside the forest can see the trees a little bit better than the people who are just in it. Are there examples of a series that lost its identity and then got it back? I guess Resi, maybe.
Got that juice back.
Resi lost its juice and then Resi found its groove.
I think that was more of a reinvention, because Resi 4 is very unlike Resi 1. Sure. They kept Resi 1's format going for a while, and everyone sort of got sick of it, and then they sort of completely rebuilt it from the ground up for Resi 4, and that's sort of been setting the tone ever since.
Yeah, well, and then they like had some misfires of 5 and 6, but then tried to do back to basics things with 7 and 8.
Yeah, it's weird because they it was like again a complete reinvention for 7. But then they took it straight back to the RE4 formula for the remake series, and now that seems to be fine. That seems to be working fine for them.
Yeah, that's what has me curious about if Resident Evil 9 is still going to be first person like Village, or if they're just going to be like, well, fuck it, let's just make it third person again and just.
I do want to. I mean, my gut tells me it's going to be third person Resi 4 style. I think the response to 8, in my view, would point to that being a sort of that they'd probably want to draw a line under that now.
Yeah, I think they even end up adding third person modes to 8, if I'm not mistaken. Like the DLC was third person where you play as what's his name? One Hand's daughter.
Well, there you go.
Ethan. So yeah.
Ethan Winters, yes.
Ethan Winters, my mistake. Not to be confused with Scott Summers. Do you want? Are there any last thoughts, or do you want to go to the super duper chats?
I fear there's going to be last thoughts, I guess. Fear there's going to be a big identity problem conversation coming within the next 5 years or so, as live service is taking off and early access is now being seen as a good thing overall, instead of just there's some good amongst a big trash bin, right? Because it comes down to what is it? The early access games losing their identity or gaining one upon completion, but also live service games to where just a couple of balance changes, it might just be a whole new game.
I was about to say, yeah, I guess that's an example of an individual game changing its identity. Which
No Man's Sky was Cyberpunk. Yeah, that's not too long ago. It's happening right now.
No, absolutely. Yeah, Nick was talking about that one game that was like a live service game and then went to
Wayfinder
premium. Yeah. So things can just change like that, which is very strange.
Well, I guess my final point was I still don't think it would be any bad thing if it was the law that you only could have a certain number of sequels and then you just had to stop.
Oh, that sounds nice. And that would make the last one always very exciting. Like, oh my God, they're getting to the 5th one. That's the last.
I mean, if you're conscious, if you're conscious of what you're doing is going to be the last thing, you can make something really interesting out of it.
Oh, that's why I always get excited when TV shows I like announce that they have a ending in place. Like The Boys just started season 4, and they're like, season 5 will be our last season. And I'm like, good. I don't want you to go forever.
Yeah, but are they
I want to, every now and again, I go to YouTube and watch the final scene of Breaking Bad again.
Why do you like watching that horrible machine gun scene?
No, not the machine gun scene. It's like there's just that nice quiet ending where he walks around the lab and then drops dead, and then Baby Blue by Badfinger plays over the soundtrack, and the camera slow zooms out of his dead eyes, and it's like, yes, that's how you end something. Thank you. That's a good ending. Also, now everyone can go away.
It's been 11 years, and if you haven't watched Breaking Bad yet, that's on you. That is on you. That's not on us.
I didn't say who. Hey, I didn't say who dies at the end.
Breaking Brad dies at the end.
Breaking
Brad. Not
it's a good
Brad.
Thing he was good at selling meth. Imagine. That would have been awful. Who's to say that Doom's not doing that though? Because this is Doom in the Dark Ages. They are going back in time, aren't they? So, let's say you get your term limit. Sure, he can't be Doom guy anymore. But it's what about prequels?
Yeah,
because this is a prequel.
Oh, it doesn't count.
No prequels either.
No prequels, obviously.
That would be my law.
Use
new
3
franchise,
and then public domain. You get three goes and then public domain.
Yeah, that's the law. And you have to release the source code.
Do Lion King 1.5? Doesn't count. We're not at 5 yet. We did a 1.5.
This is why they don't count titles anymore.
Obviously there'd have to be a board of inquiry for situations such as that.
This is the 3rd Modern Warfare 2 release.
Oh God, yeah.
Okay, super chats.
Let's go.
All right. Dr. Theo gives $5 and says, the only AAA company I can think of that feels like it has at least some identity is Nintendo. The rest feel identical, borderline confusing.
I really hate to be that guy, but yeah, I feel like a lot of identity borders on vibe.
Yeah.
It's Blue's Clues, when they swapped out Steve, had a different vibe, but Joe was still cool, right? You can replace Yahtzee with another wisecracking Brit, but it's going to be a different vibe. It undeniably will be a different vibe.
Nintendo feels like a company where if you went to them with a perfectly good game that was good and would probably sell, but it didn't vibe with their company brand, they would say, "Nah, I don't want it."
Yeah,
I don't think any other company or Steam or anything like that would do the same.
it's good
I
for
think
them
every other
because yeah, you have indie games that want to be on the Switch. You know the vibe. You know what we like.
Yeah.
It's a culture.
People ask me when Starstruck Vagabond's going to be on Switch.
Will it be revealed
There's-
during tomorrow morning's Nintendo Direct at 9 a.m. Central that we'll be streaming live here at secondwind.org?
I hope
I doubt it.
Oh,
Well, firstly, I need to find someone who knows how the fuck to develop games for Switch.
I know a guy.
And who would be able to get
Yeah,
their head
brother.
around incredibly amateur code.
It's me, solo developer.
It's a beautiful Mario.
Dr. That hat weirdly suits you, Toby.
That's so good.
And Dr. Theo comes back with another $5 and says, I already asked Yachts this, but what are your guys' guilty displeasures? Games you know are good, but you just can't enjoy for whatever reason. Yeah, I remember this came up on something I was on recently.
Anything that Yachts describes as Jiminy Cockthroat, I know they're good enough to make a lot of money. I just can't get into them. That and too artsy fartsy. I'm sorry, I can't with.
Oh hell yeah, give me that artsy fartsy.
Outer
I understand
Wilds.
the artsy fartsy thing.
I just can't.
Outer Wilds.
Yeah.
Go to jail,
brother. It still feels
Outer Wilds
rough to play.
Outer Wilds specifically is probably mine because I like artsy fartsy. I appreciate the Outer Wilds and its vibes, but I've never finished it because after a while I just fall off and I'm not entirely sure why.
But you don't understand, Yachts. It's symbolism for I'm still doing the same thing. I'm still doing the same thing. Yeah, you can't use you didn't understand it as an excuse. Yeah, that's a game that on paper should be my jam. Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know what? Well, I've said mine 1,000 times. Most popular Western RPGs, and I don't Minecraft. I just don't get it. Like I know it's good, I just don't get it.
Oh, holy shit! City builders.
You gotta treat Minecraft like a creativity toy that keeps trying to kill you.
There's your problem.
You gotta have a project in mind. I want to build a giant cathedral to my honor, and I've got to build it while also the game world is trying to kill me.
I just don't have that creative muscle in my brain. You know what I played this weekend? I finally played Hellblade 2. I thought it was a pretty major step down from Hellblade 1 story-wise. Like, super gorgeous. That game, you can't say that franchise doesn't have an identity. Hellblade 1 and Hellblade 2, absolutely keeping that identity. So
what is that?
Oh, you just move the stick a little bit and everything's really pretty, and then they walk and you hear voices in your head. It's an identity. Doesn't mean it's a good identity.
I suppose.
I'm not saying. I'm just saying
No, I'm with you.
Keeps it. Yeah, I thought it was very pretty, and I thought the story was like a major step back.
What'd you think of Thor Jr., the most well-adjusted Norseman?
You know what? I like being introduced to someone who's a bloodthirsty slaver, and then like 2.5 hours later, being like, "All right, no, this is actually a good guy. I can get behind him."
He's got major daddy issues, and he's the only one that shrugs off the madness. Like, oh no, I just felt a little funny there. Like, what?
Yeah. No, I just had to tell me. That's fine.
The reverse Breaking Bad.
Yeah. There you go.
Broke good.
Breaking nice. Alex Armstrong, who's $5 says, what's your favorite gaming controversy? Mine's the petition to recast Far Cry 5's religious cult into Muslims or black gangsters and take place in Canada.
That can't be real.
Okay, who the fuck was petitioning that?
I mean, is it a real controversy or like someone with a head injury like made a petition, like signthis.org, and 2 people signed it?
Yeah.
I got 2. One would be back when actually this always comes up anytime Hindu deities are displayed and they're a little too sexy. There's that one guy that gets a little weird about it and it's just like, this is a mockery of Kali and Ram and I forget his other name. That's the one, but he's kind of, I think he's given it up. Recently though, have you guys seen the banana game on Steam?
Oh yeah, I don't understand it. It's just very popular.
It's just a JPEG. Every 3 hours you click and it'll give you a banana that you can sell on the marketplace, and that's it. People are getting stupid with it and dumping some real money into it, and they're calling it a scam and all this other nonsense. I think it's a bad show. I don't think it's a scam. I think people will buy anything.
People are there's like microtransactions that you can buy.
No, it's the Steam marketplace itself, which I don't know if you know anything about that.
Very little.
Guts knows. He has experience with TF2 hats.
Did you sell a fancy TF2 hat?
No, I got out of the TF2 game before hats were a thing.
Oh,
as I've said.
Yeah, no, that's my favorite controversy as of now.
Mine.
Well, sorry, after you.
Mine really quick was in 2009 for the EA's The Godfather 2. They sent press in a press kit brass knuckles, and it turns out that is a federal crime to send that weapon via the mail. And so then they asked everyone to send them back, and no one did because they're like, well, I don't want to commit the crime of sending them in the mail, so I'm just going to keep my brass knuckles. So there you go.
Whoops.
Yeah.
I did an old zero punctuation, let's all laugh at that industry that never learns anything tee hee hee episode on the hot coffee controversy, which would probably still be my favorite one of those.
That's a good one. Yeah.
It's just also so funny when you look at it, how sexless it is. Right?
And the really funny part is what a huge fuss people made about it.
Yeah.
It
is just the least erotic thing imaginable.
Oh my God. Fully clothed humping in my policeman murdering simulator. Think of the children.
My Christian values shattered. Just like
Fox D gives $46.15 and says, just got a big promotion and raise at work. Here's the first day's surpluses. Thanks for making Mondays much more enjoyable rather than something to dread. Have a drink on me.
Oh,
thank you very much, Fox D.
Congrats
on your promotion.
I'm going to spend it on a large milkshake and give myself a stomachache.
Their book, Their Hair, Their Dunkelheit gives €2 and says, quick, name an example of a no true Scotsman.
No true Scotsman would send their Doomslayer back in time to the Middle Ages.
Well, you don't need to put Scotsman in there. You could just say this isn't a true Doom game, and that would be an example of a no true Scotsman fallacy.
No true Doomsman. Is this whole episode been a no true Scotsman?
No true Doom guy. Yeah, no. This whole episode.
No, you're thinking of Quasimodo, the Notre Doom guy.
That's good. Well done. That is good.
Alex Armstrong gives $5 and says, IPs having no identity can be good. Mario can literally do anything and all the fans love it. Then again, Sonic can't do that because fans make it weird. It's weird that you present Mario as an IP that has no identity, Alex Armstrong, frankly.
Yeah.
I would say that's an IP that has a very clear identity. It's Mario. You look at a picture of Mario and say, hey, that's Mario.
I think the core games have a very very strong identity. And then it's the offshoots that don't. But like we said, the offshoots, that's what they're kind of there for.
Yeah. More identifiable than Jesus. Like, that's why they had to get Chris Pratt, of all people. Someone with no identity to voice the very identifiable character.
There you go. Dale Mallows gives $5 and says, just checking in real quick to tell you I got a shit. I'll listen to the pod later. Toodles. That's a really long shit if it's going to take the entire podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Dale Mallows. The Piss Bandit. The Piss Bandit gives $5 and says, why should those filthy commoners get to know about anything? It could get in the way of them giving us their money. Speaking in the voice of a AAA publisher there, perhaps.
Beautiful.
I like it. Yeah.
Release more playable demos, assholes. Like what Steam Indie games do.
Yeah.
But maybe don't have them all in 1 week for only a week. Maybe spread them out a little.
Oh God!
Yeah, let's do it before the fest, after the fest, please.
Yeah. See, if you could design your demo with the understanding that we'd be playing it for 1 minute each, that would probably rise more to the challenge there. Is how do we summarize our game in 1 minute of gameplay? There you go.
Yeah. I don't want to be that guy, but some of the demos during the next fest, you're definitely sort of like, I'm the only game you're going to play this year. Maybe even I'm the only game you'll ever played.
Also, just please include basic options like being able to resize the game window or being able to lower the volume.
Now I brought it up. That actually sounds like it would be a really good challenge for an indie game developer. I say, hey, you have to make a demo that will be over in 1 minute. How are you going to show off your core gameplay, your core vibes, your core themes? How are you going to
60
do
seconds.
that? Would be a
What
really
60
useful.
seconds of animal would you show off?
That would be a really useful creative exercise for a creator, I think.
And that's just a game jam. No.
But it's less like make a full game and that's only 60 seconds long, and more of you have a game. What 60-second slice can be indicative? Like a movie, you could do that. You could take a minute of a movie and be like, here's the tone we're going for. Here's like something we're really proud of. Where with a game, like how do you onboard someone within 60 seconds while showing off what's cool about it, not just the opening 60 seconds of a game, which might not be the strongest.
I'm always banging on about making sure you have a strong core gameplay loop. That's what you'd need. That's what you want to see, the minute-long loop of your game. Anyway, Rafael Sampaio gives $5 and says, finally played Portal recently, and Yahtzee was right, that game truly has no flaws.
Were you the only person to say that about Portal?
It's the only game I've ever said that about.
Yeah. Was it?
Portal 1 might not have any flaws. Yeah. Portal 2, a little too long. Just a smidge too long.
Yeah. As I've said before, Portal, it's still a good game, but it's like Portal 1 was 3 perfect cherries, and Portal 2 is 5 perfect cherries and a handful of sawdust.
Sure. The only perfect game is Tetris. Nice, lean, clean. Brought down the USSR.
But where's the skill tree?
It brought down the USSR. That was the skill tree.
Where's the different colored goop that makes you do things differently?
There you go. Tsunami Dusha gives $20 and then says nothing. Thanks for the money, Tsunami Dusha. Maduin Argentus gives 10 PLNs and says the one game get me hyped from SGF was Spitterhead. You know what? I was hyped on that just from the way Marty was describing it last week.
Slitterhead. I'm so excited for Slitterhead.
It sounds like it would be a fun game.
It's going to be great. It's going to be goaty.
And it's by the Silent Hill devs, no less.
Yeah, Team Silent. Oh, geez.
Where are we? Yeah. Fox D gives $5 and says, create a thumbprint is just a less charitable way of saying signature style. Look at the Haunted Chocolatier trailers or a Deltarune. Why is that less charitable, Fox D? I think that's just a rewording of create a thumbprint.
Yeah.
That create a thumbprint is a good thing.
Because there's no alliteration. It's not as cool.
Yeah,
okay.
I think that's what we're talking about when we talk about it.
Old Hunter 77 gives $10 and says, if a franchise stays the same, it's criticized for being stagnant. If it changes, it's criticized for losing its identity. The only thing they can do to retain goodwill is to end and be missed. I agree with that sentiment, Old Hunter 77. As I say, 3 and you're out. As we say, that should be the law.
I mean, there is no way that Silent Hills would have been able to would have been as high in people's esteem as PT is, because we never got the thing. Silent Hill 2 or Silent Hills would have absolutely had flaws that people would have complained about, whereas PT, everyone sees it as this beautiful little thing because it was never allowed to blossom.
Jonathan Griffin gives $5 and says, it's unlikely, but any chance Starstruck Vagabond gets a Mac port one day? I've heard Mac's harder to dev for, but I've always wondered what that means. Well, I'll tell you, Jonathan Griffin, because when I was making The Consuming Shadow, my producer at the time encouraged me to do a Mac port. But to do that, I had to buy a Mac, so I had to get a second-hand one. Can't develop for Mac on PC. Oh, good Lord, no. Can't taint the ivory walled garden of Mac iOS with code from something else. And in order to make it, I had to jump through who knows how many fucking hoops just to making sure that the game was signed with whatever internal bullshit iOS needs to run its shit. And then you put it on the Mac store, but it doesn't stay there. You got to keep paying for an app developer license to be able to continue selling your stuff on the store, even like long after you put it out there. And frankly, I couldn't be asked. So after like a year or so, Consuming Shadow stopped being on the Mac store, and no one complained. Well, one guy complained.
That's just 3 things. Was it Steve Jobs?
But that's why I really cannot be asked to make Mac ports for anything anymore. Anyway, Jackson Jewell, a member for 7 months in the Green Gang, says games need to stay close to their origins. I'm not sure that's what I was saying.
I don't think that.
And not just DLC. People always complaining that it's just a 1.5, it's not 2.
Yeah, I mean, I think more of like whatever the first thing is, then the identity is like set in stone, and I don't think that's necessarily true. I think there's a lot of franchises that have sort of morphed throughout the years to become something. We mentioned Resi, for instance, or how Zelda has morphed to become something arguably better than what it was at the start at times.
Alex Armstrong is $2 and says spin-offs can still have identity. Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon.
Yeah, I think we're saying that but it's the identity of Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon is not, in my opinion, related to the identity of Far Cry proper, in the same way that the identity of Mario spin-offs, they might be good. A Smash is great. A Kart is great. I don't associate it with the same identity that a new Mario game would have.
Yeah, and didn't hurt that Blood Dragon was quite good and funny in its own right. Raphael Sampaio gives $5 and says, a franchise that I feel managed to change an identity well was Ys. Changed its gameplay style 3 times while keeping the fundamentals the same. Well, arguably. The first Ys game was like an RPG where you didn't have an attack button. It was an action RPG with no attack button. You attacked things by running into them. Just by holding your sword out, going if, and just walking forward and backwards and forwards into the dude over and over again.
That's exactly how I'd fight.
Ys was always like a little bit behind the rest of the industry, but you know, it's carved out a little niche for itself.
Yeah, I would say. I mean, Final Fantasy. We did a whole episode on it whenever 16 came out last summer or whatever. And that's a series that's kind of reinvented itself multiple times.
I played some of the. I played Ys Origin, Ys Oath in Felghana, which had a sort of. They were fun. They had a sort of Castlevania-esque emphasis on interesting boss fights. And then, of course, there was Ys Monstrum Nox, which was something else entirely. Which I recommend if you like big titty anime girls.
All right. Perfect.
You heard it here.
A nice pairing with Wuthering Waves.
Well, if you like your games to be basically nothing but big titty anime girls, then sure, play some Wuthering Waves.
I never thought about the word wuthering until I watched the cut of your Flavor Emblematic. I never thought about the word wuthering, and I was like, I don't know what wuthering is.
It's a slightly archaic word, but it is a word.
But I also don't.
It describes what things do in a violent wind, basically.
Northern English, even.
Wuthering Waves makes sense, but Wuthering Heights, like you mentioned, don't get it.
It's a song by a very high-pitched lady.
There you go.
Jackson Jewell gives $2 or says, or just become a new franchise.
Yeah, when can you just take off and make a new thing, I wonder?
Yeah, well, I mean, firstly, you have to be successful, and you can't really count on success in your first release. I mean, that's the mistake the new Mummy film made.
Yeah, I mean, there's people also said, why wasn't Doom the Dark Ages just called Hexen? And the reason is because of millions of copies of the game would not be sold if it was called Hexen compared to Doom the Dark Ages, and that fucking sucks. But that is the truth. Millions of people are going to buy this game because it has the word Doom on it. And if it didn't have the word Doom on it, people would not buy it. Those people.
I would argue that Resident Evil 7 would have sold and done just as well if it hadn't been called Resident Evil.
Elden Ring got a bunch of normies who did not know it was from Software.
There you go.
Yeah.
Like,
and I guess I think the the other side to it is if you put a number too big, people might be like, I can't do a 16th Final Fantasy. I can't start now. That's too deep into it. Like,
that's the one piece of video games. I'm not touching that. Armored Core 6, it's fine. I can hop in.
Yeah. I guess they just don't care. FromSoft doesn't care. Speaking of Elden Ring, I got all caught up. I'm all ready for the DLC. I beat Moog. I'm ready to
blimey.
touch that egg. I'm gonna put
I
my
hope
hand.
it's
I'm gonna
not
hold
there.
hands with
I
the egg.
genuinely hope it's like
Fucking shit.
somewhere else.
Yeah.
He's just sad no one hit him.
Yeah, I know everyone's going to be talking about the Elden Ring DLC, but I'm officially, kind of into my Souls-like fatigue.
Damn.
I never finished Elden Ring, and the prospect of going back and playing it again just makes me go, I don't wanna.
You missed the gun, don't you, from Another Crab's Treasure?
Yeah, what if they put the
Yeah, I
gun from Another
suppose.
Crab's Treasure in it?
I'm still
Well,
playing Dark
obviously,
Souls
I'd be
1
all over that.
after that thing we
Dark
did.
Souls 1's really good.
I'm still, I'm like,
Yeah.
give me a strength cleric build again, easy mode, but
Yeah.
so good. But no,
Wesley
good
Thomas,
question, though, real
sorry.
quick.
Yeah.
Come back, don't leave. Assassin's Creed, Prince of Persia. They did the branching thing and did pretty well there.
There you go.
Is that
Assassin's Creed
just-
sort of.
Is it more a fluke, or is it actually something that can help?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess
can
it's like
say?
when you change the name when like the name has been ruined, I guess.
Well, anyway, Wesley Thomas gives $5 and says, I know this is off topic, but I noticed that pilot math seemingly has no swear word that maps to addition. Is it so bad nobody dares utter it? I don't know. I guess I just never came to mind. I guess it would have been dish, in the same way track was used in place of subtraction.
That you're Jeremy
I guess you could say dish as a word to mean sort of disrespecting someone. Hey, that guy's dishing me. That would have probably fallen into parlance.
He made his own language for his books, Marty.
Oh,
Yeah.
I was gonna be like Frost. Definitely, Frost doesn't know what pilot math. I definitely know what pilot math is, but explain it to Frost.
It's a reference to my Galaxy for Food series.
See, it's a reference to the books. Pilot
Did-
math.
Like all good sci-fi franchises, I made up my own swear word language.
I was wondering if like that was something you just wanted to do, or if that was because of Clockwork Orange.
I might have been more to do with Red Dwarf because Red Dwarf had their own swearing language. Everything was smeg this and smeg that and smeg off you smegging smegger.
Does Star Trek have? I know Star Wars does. Firefly does.
No, Farscape has one. Everything's frel in that. Get your frelling hands off something.
Frelling.
Didn't Battlestar Galactica have one?
I never watched that. That's a big
I
blind
don't
spot
know.
for me.
Anyway, Severin gives 1,000 RSDs, whatever they are, and says how Games Workshop handles Warhammer IP is an interesting example. They just hand out licenses to use the IP to anyone who pitches something profitable stroke interesting, and because of that, we end with a bunch of genres.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, as I said, it's weird that Lego doesn't do that. That Lego seems to retain creative control over all the games and films and stuff.
Also,
but you know,
Serbian dinar.
Nice.
I think
okay.
That's the first. I think I've seen
That's
that.
a new one. Yeah.
Oh, it's a Serbian person.
Yeah.
Oh, first one I've ever seen. Yeah, Riot does that with their current IP. What was it, Mage Seeker and Arch?
Oh yeah.
I don't know.
League of Legends.
Yeah, just like hands it out, and now they have I think like an RTS, an action platformer, visual novels coming probably.
Sean Harriman, member for 6 months, and says new Witcher and no Geralt. He essential to identity.
Oh,
Well,
Yeah.
I would have said so because like he is the titular Witcher. He is the Witcher.
but it's an occupation too.
Yeah.
It's not
Be about
like,
another
you know,
dude who witches.
Yeah, like I'd be
But who-
fully down.
but
to
who
just
would-
have some Witcherin?
But who would be the Witcher of the two Witchers?
Who witches
who
the
would-
Witcher?
Yeah. Which one would be the Witchist?
Think about
Yeah,
it.
like they could have they could have Assassin's Creeded it, and every Witcher just have a different one. Because Geralt is the White Wolf specifically of the Witchers.
Mm.
Hmm. Oh, that was Jon Snow as well, wasn't it? In Game of Thrones.
You know nothing, Jon Snow.
He was the white. They call him the White Wolf towards the end
Game of Thrones was great.
because he had a pet white wolf. That was they didn't have that much. Didn't put as much thought into it, I guess. Sovereign gives €20. Says, "Hi guys, Do you think developers should be allowed to openly fight back against critics they disagree with? Yes, I'll admit, this question was kind of inspired by what happened to last week's Fully RAM. Not trying to stir shit.
I don't think I'm trying to stir shit.
Well, I think the developer sort of acknowledged they were in the wrong in that particular case.
I mean,
Did you hear about this?
Yeah, I've seen it, but that aside, it's not a developer. We're talking shit. Yeah, they can talk shit back. What precedent?
Allowed? We can't say no.
Not
Like
even allowed. Like, just don't
his hands are
slap
dipped
him.
in
Like,
ivory.
don't Will Smith him. Like,
Well, obviously it's allowed, but I personally have a policy of never respond to criticism because, don't, as they say, don't stress about the people who hate you. Just focus on pleasing the people who still like you.
Yeah.
And it can feel very tempting to want to set people right. There can be a big temptation to set people right, but there's no magic combination of words that's going to change the mind of someone who's decided they didn't like someone. So don't even bother. Don't engage. I've survived 20 years on the internet. Just keep out of it. You'll have a much happier life. That's something Nick should listen to, but he never does.
I mean, in the end, they're opinions, right? You can't say someone's opinion is wrong or right because then they're not opinions.
Exactly. No, you can't change someone's opinion by calling them a twat.
Yeah, essentially, if I were to say Yahtzee's opinion is wrong, is me invalidating his experience as a human. I was like, no, you didn't, Yahtzee. I heard you giggling. Yes. You quite loved that game.
Well, you can't say someone's opinion is wrong because they are the authority on their own opinion.
Yeah. No.
Anyway, Fungus Finder gives $2. It says 9 a.m. I love the smell of second wind in the morning.
That was napalm. That was a little Apocalypse Now goof.
I don't know what time zone you're in. Ryan Betts gives $5 and says the no true Scotsman argument has never been more relevant except for maybe last week's topic. Thanks for keeping your identity strong, second wind. You're right, Toffee. He's trying to rub his face on the couch. Am I not giving you enough face rubs?
He took some acid and he just wants to feel the fabric.
Oh man, feel this couch though. Feel this couch.
Mr. Arms and Legs gives $5 Canadian dollars and says, I feel like the defining identity of Prince of Persia is a love story. Every pop game has one. A shame Lost Crown missed the mark on that.
Yeah, Lost Crown didn't have one, and that was great.
Oh, it's coming to Steam soon, isn't it?
Yeah.
Forgotten Sands didn't have one.
I thought the identity.
I think Prince of Persia is a game that's identity has definitely changed. Even in that core trilogy, I feel like its identity changed.
No, Warrior Within doesn't have a love story.
Yeah.
Well, unless you count a young lady's armor and its mad love affair with her bum crack.
Halo's old as time. Yeah, of course.
SVS Guru 2000 gives €20. And says, Horizon was at its best when it was about discovering ancient secrets. Tribal conflicts and fighting sci-fi Elons didn't do it for me. They should make an Aloy archaeology sim after they get the evil AI thing out of their system. I thought Robot Dinosaurs were the draw of that franchise.
That's I think
frankly. That seems to be Lego's attitude.
Yeah, am I that guy who sees like that Transformers movie with the dinosaurs and go, cool shit? But that's not what you guys are here for. Sorry.
Beast Wars? You think about Beast Wars?
I mean, I saw Beast Wars. I was like, yeah, more weird mech stuff. But apparently that's not what people want.
Always thinking about rehab.
What people want is a complicated issue. Because then we get into the argument over broad appeal versus niche appeal and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, but then you also get those those franchises that feel like they need to our identity was one thing and people were thinking of it, and now we need to rehabilitate it and become something else. And I guess how deep into that is
well, then why even put the same name on it? Why not just make something new?
It just really depends on how you are as a person, right? Yahtzee, you've been doing ZPS stuff for 15 years.
I mean, we seem to accept as a given that franchises must keep going. And my question would be why?
I mean, the money thing. I completely agree with you, but I just feel like there's I don't have the Ross Scott dog in me to fight that fight that I'm not sure is winnable.
I mean, they do it all the time. From the creators of BioShock, from the janitor of Horizon. You could just, that's all you have to put. And then
Right.
your new game title. Yeah.
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 Like Judas.
Yeah. Ken Levine, he's still a name.
For a second, I thought you were
we-
just talking about the dude who killed Jesus. The
Him.
dude who held out Jesus. I was
From
like,
one
yeah.
of 12 disciples.
Hey, Judas didn't kill Jesus.
He
just
sold him out
He betrayed him. Come on, man.
for a bunch of pieces of silver.
I mean, I'm pretty sure it was the being nailed to the big bit of wood that killed the guy.
Sure.
Actually, it wasn't even that. It was like being suspended in it for 3 days.
What about the Spear of Longinus featured in the hit anime Neon Genesis Evangelion? Think about
That's
that.
just for the Holy Grail thing. Technically, he died of asphyxiation.
Yeah, that's how you die when you're crucified. Technically, you asphyxiate
Asphyxiation? Get the fuck out of
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
Is that real?
because your entire body weight sort of pulls down your lungs.
What a time to be alive.
I learned about that when I was like 7 in church.
Yeah,
Seems very early. Seems
Yeah.
very early.
yeah. Also, they're more likely to put the nails through the wrist bones and not the palm, because
Yep.
if you put it in the palm, that'll just you put your whole weight on that, that'll just rip straight out.
Perfect.
Anyway, Margaret Selman gives $5. Says, "What are your feelings on franchises with different stories and characters for each or almost each iteration versus direct sequels?" So, what are we talking
like
about
that
here?
anthology.
Right, like the Dark Pictures anthology. Is that what we're talking about?
Sure. Was
yeah.
Dead Space 3 Isaac?
Yes.
Yes.
Never mind.
Far Cry,
thought
I guess.
Randos.
Far Cry changes characters
There you go.
Yes.
all the time. Yeah.
Grand Theft Auto.
Grand Theft Auto. Yeah.
I like those.
Yeah, I like if a story is interesting enough or a character is interesting enough to continue, then great. I don't feel
Well,
like
I'd say like those franchises tell different stories with each game, but they have the same vibes. As it
yeah,
were.
very much so. Yeah.
It's sort of like American Horror Story, we're just creating vibes, but we do it by taking a different route each time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Laurie gives €6. Says Nintendo isn't getting off scot-free. The Paper Mario franchise lost its identity pretty hard, only bearing a surface level resemblance.
Can a spin-off lose its identity?
I think they just didn't really know what to do with Paper Mario.
Okay.
And
It's
again,
like, hey, we want to
Mario,
make a new RPG with slightly different combat mechanics. We'll just slap Paper Mario onto it.
and we don't want to pay Square, so we can't be associated with Mario RPG anymore. Yeah, I also feel like Paper Mario, like it was only 2 games. Like the Thousand Year Door obviously felt like we're gonna take what the first game was about and really build upon it. And then from there, each game was like, we got to throw in a wrinkle. There's got to be color. There's got to be dimension shifting. There's got to be stamps, stickers.
I think Super Paper Mario was pretty good for what it was.
Yeah, I need to go back. I never played the whole thing.
Does it have the sicko levels like after you're done with it, like normal Mario games do? Like you beat it and now have the we're gonna take it out on you now. If you keep playing.
No, it's
Thousand Year Door has like the pit of 1,000 trials or whatever, where you got to fight got to keep going down and fighting harder and harder battles.
Yeah, I think Super Paper Mario had something similar to that. Anyway, Jack One Spade gives $5. Says, I think my favorite controversy is one of the old ones. The 90s rage against Mortal Kombat because it led to the ESRB and gave a tool for game ratings. And then we learned that no one fucking pays attention to ratings anyway, so who cares?
Yeah.
That was probably one of the more popular ones, or one of the more, I guess, influential ones. Mainstream.
Well, it's I guess it's tricky to defend a game where the dude pulls the other guy's head and spine out and fountains of blood pour out.
But again, when you think back to the original ones, so quaint compared to like the fatalities in the new games, where it's like, oh god,
I know, right?
This is icky.
You show one of these fatalities to a 1600s peasant, dead, explodes their head.
No, that's just their daily life. That's just
you went too far back.
That was their
entertainment. You got to go to like the 60s.
Hold on.
Yeah, that's what happened.
Show this to my grandmother.
That's what happened. I mean, in Medieval Peasant, that's just what happened to their uncle the last time the Duke of Caer Bonnig rolled through town.
Yeah,
for
they
whatever
did do
reason.
that just for entertainment, didn't they? Let's gather around for the Yeah, no. Let's go back to the 80s. Reagan Hays Code. There we go.
There you go.
No, Victorian England. That's who you want to go to for prudes.
Okay. Them Quakers.
Ryan Betts, member for 4 months in tip jar. Thank you very much. And then Tyrell 007, member for 4 months.
Also, sorry. Ryan said, "Please God, no one bring up Sonic the Hedgehog." Oh wait, I just did.
Well, let's move hastily on from that. Tyrell 007, member for 4 months in ad-free podcast, says, so games are several things: art style, music, gameplay, story. How many of these need to be retained to remain franchise name, like Final Fantasy, etc.?
Yeah, what happened there?
There's like a ship of Theseus there, where if you
we're not the fucking board of inquiry,
but we are inquiring.
I mean, but there was like around Final Fantasy 16, people were like, "This isn't a Final Fantasy game." Other people were like, "There's crystals, it is." And so
it's. I guess it's like what we say so often about porn. Like, can't describe it, but I know it when I see it.
Oh, I could describe it.
Sure, but there's high production, there's amateur, you know.
Yeah,
there's different strokes, different folks.
Yeah,
Final Fantasy 9 of all things.
Great game.
I
think he possibly had that queued up because we talked about the leak of Final Fantasy 9 remake.
Okay.
Because I love it.
And because he loves it.
And Eric
He's a big VV boy. Eric VV Vikart. That's what the Vike stands for, VV.
Are they remaking or remastering?
We don't know yet. It leaked. There was like an Epic database leak and a Final Fantasy 9 remake or remaster. I imagine it's not going to be like Final Fantasy 7 remake, but it might be zhushed up a little bit.
Make the main female character who has the proportions of like a 10-year-old into something that people feel less guilty about jerking off to, perhaps?
Yeah, there you go. Everyone should just be jerking off to Queena, the big frog lady, anyways. Get your crank on to her.
Were they her or were they gender neutral? I sort of got gender neutral vibes.
They were big frog ladies, so I'm not sure.
Flappable.
Yeah.
Oh, look, it's Eric Weikart, member for 7 months in ad-free podcasts, who says, I don't think Nintendo series are 100% about identity, but rather a mix with gameplay formula. This is why main games can be different, like for Zelda.
I agree.
What is it? Yeah, I don't know. Family friendly, bright, colorful. I know what I'm getting when I grab a Nintendo game, and they've done that consistently, and that's all I'm there for. On top of the
I guess they have like a corporate identity as well, like above franchise identity, right? A corporate identity in a way that Sony and Microsoft don't.
Yeah,
they are like a little Minute Maid juice box.
Brand.
That's what they are. They're a Minute Maid juice box. Nice,
delicious,
no fuss. Have a shot in between your Jaeger bombs.
There you go. Jack One Spade gives $5 and says, it would be nice if instead of rebooting famous franchises, they rebooted dead ones. Bonk, Bubsy, Gex, Dungeon Explorer, Vector Man, Primal Rage.
Yeah, sure. I'll convince the CEOs to double down on things that failed to make money the first time.
Yeah, call up fucking Yves Guillemot and explain your reasoning to him. I'm sure he'll love to hear.
It worked with Morbius. They put him back in theaters. We could do it for Primal Rage.
I mean, we're getting the 3 Gex games in our remastered trilogy, so maybe this is the beginning of the Gexaissance. Those jokes are not going to hold up well. I am
full fat
this
racism.
Game comes out. Oh my god, it is bad.
Hope it doesn't. I hope it's just like targeted anti-woke jokes. It's just Gex going like, is the glass half full or half empty? Why don't we ask the glass?
Mr. Arms and Legs gives $5 Canadian. Says, Yahtzee, how many years of not playing a Souls-like will it take for you to be cured from Souls-like fatigue? Well,
I thought actually Crab's Treasure would help you.
I was about to bring that up. Yes, I really liked Crab's Treasure. I played it through to the end and everything. And a lot of the reasons why I liked it, because it wasn't really incredibly difficult. Didn't feel like it needed to be more difficult with each one. It didn't feel like it was like beating me about the face and neck every time I tried to play it. And more recently, after I Yahtzee tried it, I've been continuing through with 9 Souls.
Oh, nice.
And actually rather enjoying that. Because again, I don't feel like it's beating the snot out of me the whole time. And as long as I focus and learn to keep my parry up, then I'm getting through that quite comfortably.
Did you also keep playing Arctic Eggs?
No, I've let that fall on the wayside, I'm afraid.
Oh, that's a shame.
Yeah. I've noticed during the Next Fest a lot of these, at least they were tagged Souls-likes, and sometimes in the description they are leaning towards I wouldn't call them cozy, but they're definitely leaning more towards hack and slash. Flintlock, Eric can go ahead and show that one up there. Souls-like in the here's the big boss and the bonfire presentation. Everything aside from, as Yahtzee said, they're beating the hell out of me. The platforming even works. There's we're starting to just go back towards, I guess, DMC, Bayonetta, more so than actual Souls-likes now. But Estus, we'll have to keep the Estus, of course.
Yes. So I guess we might be seeing traditional style God of War come back. Who knows?
It's the cycle.
Number 10, gives $5 and says, do you think long-running franchises like Pokemon, Sonic, and Mario should end? I don't think they could end at this point. Number 10, I think the franchises you're talking about have sort of crossed over to the point where there's pretty much always going to be coming back.
Mm-hmm.
Even if there's a big stinker one, all they'll have to do is announce a new one and all will be forgiven.
Yeah.
It's just an institution at this point.
Yeah, essentially government mandated.
Yeah.
Because you couldn't drop it. There's nothing to.
I always ask every time they bring out a new Sonic game, where the fuck is this hidden massive Sonic fan base that keeps buying all this shit and making it profitable? They must exist. They're just all hiding in their basements somewhere, like chuds.
Maybe they're
cannibalistic humanoid underdwellers.
Yeah.
I love Sonic. I think Sonic's great.
Maybe they're hate gaming. There's hate watching. Maybe it's got a hate fan base.
I bet there's a lot of Sonic fans who are just normal and are like, "Oh, damn, a new Sonic game's out. I'm going to buy it."
What a silly guy. Yeah.
I think there's just a lot of normos out there.
Well, if you're still really looking forward to the next Sonic game after you've played some of the really atrocious ones, then there's clearly something wrong with your pattern recognition ability.
Yeah, but then we get Sonic Frontiers, which both you and I agree, one of the best games of 2022. So
it wasn't good.
We had such a good time streaming it. We had a lot of smiles. We told some jokes to each other.
Shai Supposed gives €5.99 and says, less than 3, Toffee, Frost, and Mary.
Hey, it's me, Mari.
It's Mary.
Do you hear that, Toffee? We're married now.
Oh no!
You may kiss the bride. Yeah, like that.
That almost looked like a fuck kill Mary, but it was a.
Yeah,
you got to choose Frost, Toffee, Mary.
And then Shai Supposed comes back with $5.99 and says, "Here's some money to turn queef-struck vegan to become franchise."
That was a landmine.
Where's your sequel?
Yeah.
Well, buy the fucking game if that's what you want. Be the change you want to see in the world. Big content update. Big update coming at the end of the month.
Ooh.
Around the time of the Steam Summer Sale, actually.
There you go.
Whoa, look at that. Activated commands.
Might be the time to finally take it out. Shai Supposed again gives $5.99. 3 $5.99s in a row. Can't stop him. And it says, From Software is going Blizzacty way. Release mostly same game with just enough change to warrant $60 price.
Let's see here.
Okay, Shai Supposed you're very early to the anti From Soft wave. So I don't think that wave has crested yet. The wave is coming.
We'll get there.
The anti From Soft storm is coming. I promise you. It's just not here yet. So
you'll have my sword, but not when the last game they released went open world.
yeah. There's gonna be a party in here. It's just the doors aren't open yet. So you gotta figure out something else to do for a while until they release that one game where people go insane. Mm-hmm. I am so excited for that Urge Tree. I want to see what's going on in its shadow. I bet there's gonna be a bunch of mean dudes who beat me up.
There's a gator down there.
A whole gator?
A gator. Oh. We in a bayou.
Oh, mon ami.
We bayou gaming.
I'm not sure what it would have taken me to go back to playing Elden Ring, but calling the DLC Shadow of such and such probably didn't help.
What about the promise of a possible gator sighting in the trailer?
Oh my goodness.
The gator boss.
Okay, we'll. I guess I'll watch lots of YouTube videos of people seeing if the gator boss can kill the giant lobster boss.
There you go.
Jewel Rogue gives €2 and says Jesus also died with a boner on the cross. A hero. Well, I don't know if I've seen that in all the Renaissance paintings depicting it.
It was after the great crooning, where they bashed away the genitalia of all the statues and put figs on them.
Crooning.
I forgot the real name for it. Yeah, I forgot who that was. An emperor or someone came into power, was like, that's enough cock in the workspace.
Emperor's
and took it all down. He probably collected them, kept them for himself.
My weird marble cocks.
Yeah, he was
everywhere.
actually just a big sicko.
Quite the museum you could make. Dr. Theo gives $5, says Quiet Place game releases trailer, no real gameplay, no release date, only says this year already half over, Saber Interactive okay.
I was so excited when I saw it this morning. Yeah, a trailer for a Quiet Place game. It's like a first-person horror game where you can't make noises or else the monsters get you. And we are so back for movie tie-in schlock, and I'm excited. I hope this just ushers in a wave where every time a big blockbuster comes out, we get a schlocky tie-in game with it. Bring it back. I miss it.
Well, a Quiet Place does feel like a pretty natural video game mechanic sort of premise, doesn't it?
I mean, it's Alien Isolation. Is what it is.
Yeah.
You gotta be even more quiet, though.
It's even quieter.
You gotta be even quieter.
No babies.
No babies. No babies in this world.
Dr. Theo comes back with another $5 and says, I've seen people say Dead by Daylight lost its identity, but I disagree. Still feels like a Hall of Fame of horror, even the new D&D chapter. I've been watching a couple of YouTube videos on the actual gameplay of Dead by Daylight. Apparently it's really badly balanced.
Uh-oh.
It's a multiplayer.
They tried, but they had a crack at making like a pro scene for it, which completely failed and fell on its ass because the game's so horribly balanced.
It's an asymmetrical multiplayer game with forced matchmaking. Who would have thought?
Not in that sense. It's like some players just give the killers the runaround, and the killers just get stuck, getting teased for the entire the entire run.
I used to play both of them. Yeah, it's pretty rough stuff. Their lore, if anything, they didn't have an identity when they started, and then they kind of canonized it. But it's always been that basically the entity just grabs random people and brings them to this weird purgatory space, and does the same for villains. So that's just always been the identity. I think it still stays on track. You know, one day you're gonna get Scooby-Doo and one of those.
Oh,
there you go. Well, speaking of, Kurt Horsting gives $10 and says, I hope no one has made you play Multiversus post-beta. It's amazing how WB took a year to make a game worse in every way. A 30-frame input buffer is criminal. Oh, we got a fighting game pro in the chat.
Oh, God, it was awful. We played it. Will and I played that last week. Of
Who
course,
did you main?
Black Adam is the only one that felt like no matter what I pressed, he would just kind of take control and string out a 30-hit combo. Oh my God. Yeah, you're never going to catch me whining during a beta with friends because it's all about the having fun with the friends, but that was atrocious. We have this list we're making mentally of like worst experience so far. I think as far as functioning game, that is right above Redfall. Yeah, that was rough.
Rip.
But they might put a character from franchise you like in it.
Think about that.
You'll have to play it then.
I love nothing. I'm fine.
They might put
Logan Roy from Succession.
They're gonna put Walter White.
Yeah.
I was hoping he'd be in Tekken. No, he just announced the trailer.
Who would be the worst imaginable addition to Multiversus? Kevin Spacey in House of Cards.
Oh God,
that could be bad.
Frank Underwood. Yeah, that'd be a little weird.
They should put Larry David from Curb Your Enthusiasm in there. I think he'd have a great time.
Fox D gives $5 and says, I read somewhere that Sonic apparently has a big customer base among Christian parents buying the games for their kids. Well, it's a good thing none of them saw the kissing scene from Sonic 2006.
No, Christian parents love two things. Very loose gun control and marrying the first human woman you see. There you
go. What like my women the way I like my gun control. Oh, is that a thing? Maybe.
Yeah.
And Fungus Finder gives $2. It says, "Dem der Gator gone et dat crawfish hooey chair."
Balls
close.
there.
Yeah.
That was good.
Yeah. Just
I
like
thought your
Jim
Cajun
Cummings.
accent would be better.
I wasn't. I was just reading it phonetically. I don't have a Cajun accent.
No.
Child.
Wow.
That was
That was
impressive.
something.
And then Witticism gives $5 and says, "Just finished V Rising just now. Thanks for keeping me entertained during the final boss."
Oh,
Yeah,
it's
you
our
like
honor.
that.
And congratulations on finishing Rising.
I'm surprised to hear Rising has an ending at all, frankly.
That's the whole build-up. Yeah.
Just wondering why Eric put a black bar over toffee there.
It's been censored.
Turned around to see him. He's noshing his bits. Noshing his bits right for the camera, right in the perfect spot for the camera to see.
Excellent goof.
Thanks, Toffee. Very enchanting sound to make right in my ear as well.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was the last of the super chats, actually. So thanks for indulging us as we navigated our way through this very vague idea of what is valid and what isn't. I was Yahtzee Crucial. I was joined by Marty, who's in that direction, and Frost, who's in that direction.
Well done.
Things to plug. I've got a new fully Ramblematic dropping on Wednesday, as we've already inferred earlier. It is on the subject of Weathering Waves. Try to guess how dismissive I'm going to be of the whole thing.
Oh,
very.
And of course, they'll
did you have no good podcast to get through?
What's that?
Did you not have a good podcast to get through?
Oh, I had my podcasts, but even then, I had to pause those for like the story cutscenes, and that's where the real pain was.
Hey, how dare you interrupt my podcast while I'm gaming? Absolutely.
So that's that. Yahtzee tries on Wednesday as always. Haven't quite decided what I'm going to play. Someone threw out Lingo this morning, which is apparently a word puzzle game that didn't get enough attention. And you know how I like my word puzzles.
What was it?
They call Lingo?
Yeah, Lingo. It came out in 2021, apparently.
Yeah, I saw a video of this. A first-person puzzle game.
Yeah, apparently it's got word puzzles. I like word puzzles.
You do like word puzzles.
And yes, Semi-Emblematic will be dropping on Thursday as well. Ooh. Takes 2 weeks for them to be made, so I almost forget what they're about by the time they actually come out. This one's going to be fun. It's about depictions of female protagonists in video games.
Oh, yeah.
Get your nose holding equipment out for when you read the comments on that one. And yeah, I think that's it for me this week.
Lovely.
Marty.
Get him.
Roasted. I will be back with Casey in about 90 minutes. We'll be doing a cheeky little 1-hour sponsor stream of a game called Void Rot, which looks like a very nice hand-drawn 2D action platformer in the vein of your Hollow Knights or your Nine Souls. Tune in for that. The Hot Muddy Energy crew will be back normal time tonight playing Cryptmaster, which is another. It's a type 'em up, a little dungeon crawling RPG type 'em up with a cool aesthetic. Tune in for that. And
yeah,
then,
I've been playing that. Spoiler alert, I actually quite like it.
Oh, look at that. Put it in the pile of games Yahtzee gives his seal of approval to. And then, like I mentioned, tomorrow, Jimmy will be joining me in the morning, 9 a.m. Central. So get your coffee and your breakfast, and we'll be watching the Nintendo Direct. Should be fun.
Ooh, nice.
How about you, Frost?
I like that hat. I see here, new Cold Take came out talking about high-risk hypocrisy. That's what I should have been titled. Good thing. That's such a good alliteration. Does so well on algorithms. And then the usual streams, better with friends tomorrow. All that good stuff. Oh, am I missing anything? Nah. Same as usual. We leave now. We hunger.
Well, we got 2 more super chats. First, Fox D gives $2 and says Toffee the Miller Test Edition. And then Beneath 1111 gives 20 Swedish krona and says, I wish to hear Frost sing falsetto. Take it away.
Nice song. Fucking.
What about the darkness?
Shoot. What?
I believe God love.
Just believe anything I love. Yeah. Hold on. What was that?
Whoa, that was... I can't do falsetto at all. I'm like,
Oh wow, that's right. It gives out on you. No.
yeah.
I used to roam the hallways of an old warehouse chanting Ave Maria to myself, hoping somebody would stumble in and I would create the urban legend. Yeah.
That there was like a ghost.
Yeah,
Shit was being haunted.
Creepy. Yeah, because we had no security, so I was just hoping I'd like freak people out away.
No.
What's your octave range, Frost?
No idea. Like it gets down real low.
Well, you start as low as you can go, and then you go do re mi fa sol la ti do re mi fa sol la ti do. That's about as high as I go.
Let's go gaps in it. So, okay, what is there? Let's give it a go. Nice little. Do re mi fa sol la ti do, and then you gotta hit falsetto. Do re mi fa sol la ti do. That's
okay, well, you're completely off key there, but
yeah. I don't know where those go. Aside from like,
I lost my keys.
yeah, it's just like I can't put the keys to them, but I have good pitch, whatever it's called. Just no training.
Yeah. Freddie Mercury had a 3-octave voice apparently, or was it a 5-octave voice?
That's so many.
He had a crazy number of octaves. That Freddie Mercury apparently.
No, who's got the highest? Freaking Bon Jovi.
Oh, Bon Jovi.
Yeah.
John Bovi?
John Bobi. Yeah, the very one.
Yeah. Because if you listen to a song like Crazy Little Thing Called Love, you can hear how low Freddie Mercury is capable of going. I mean, we all know he can go high.
Yeah.
But he goes really low in Crazy Little Thing Called Love. Crazy Little Thing Called Love.
That's a good song.
This
also,
gets
Gabe
his Elvis
Airbro
song.
with a $10 dono, Second Wind Musical Fund. It'll happen. Year 2 of Second Wind.
Hey.
I did that Celia song for Venturers Nye. I've done my part. Everyone else has to do a solo.
I did Stuck in the Middle with You today. What do you mean?
Oh, there you go.
That's a great song.
Your turn, Marty.
Spoken word edition.
Okay, in my first episode of Archive on Mega Man Legends, I'll create a song. I'll put a song in there.
Okay.
I like it.
Okay, we got to go now. I got to walk this dog.
Bye, everyone.
Walk this restless dog. Bye, everyone. See you next time.
Dog syndrome. I almost said restless dong syndrome. That's something different.
Yep, he can sense it. He can sense it when I'm getting ready to go.